Hi, I'll continue with paragraph 3 of the chapter on the brace from Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach's Versuch über die wahre Art, das Klavier zu spielen. Diese Manier wird sowohl in langsamen als auch geschwinden Stücken, bei Schleifungen sowohl als auch bei gestoßenen Noten angebracht. Eine ganz kurze Note verträgt sie nicht wohl, weil hierdurch, wegen der vielen Noten, welche sie enthält und welche doch eine gewisse Zeit erfordern, der Gesang leicht undeutlich werden kann. The first sentence of this paragraph, I'd say, is straightforward enough. Bach is alluding to the versatility of the brace, that it is used in both slow and fast pieces, and with legato or slurred notes, as well as with staccato or detached notes. And I translate gestoßenen Noten here, now as I talk, as both staccato and detached notes, because it'll all depend on what your understanding of staccato is. By the way, if you stay tuned to my channel, you will be finding out exactly what Bach's understanding of staccato is, and you'll then be able to further connect that, Bach's understanding of staccato, to this. And what Bach says about completely short notes not well suffering a brace, and the reason he gives as to why, well, that reason why, that the notes of the brace do, after all, take up a certain amount of time, and that can easily muddy or obscure the singing line or the melody, or the tune or the song, however one wants to translate their Gesang. Well, that reason can be connected to what Bach said as he was explaining the Pral trill in paragraph 32 of the chapter on trills. Dieser Triller kann daher ebensowohl wie die kurzen Vorschläge über einer geschwinden Noten vorkommen, welche dem ungeachtet nicht verhindern darf, dass dieser Triller deswegen doch so hurtig gemacht werden muss, dass man glauben sollte, die Note, worüber angebracht wird, verlöre nicht das geringste hierdurch an ihrer Geltung, sondern träfe auf einen Punkt zur rechten Zeit ein. I claimed when covering this sentence that Bach was rather speaking of an acoustical or aural illusion, as opposed to the notes of the trill actually taking up no time, and its principal note actually arriving bang on the beat. I also explained a key element to this illusion, incidentally. And while talking about it, I also suspected Lilliput, the roll of honour, those in the cage, by erroneously tying the first note of the Pral trill to the preceding note, were rather, aside from the proper Pral trill being too difficult for them to either play or teach, that they were rather running after the goal of the notes of the trill actually taking up no time, and that by them playing 3 notes instead of 4, that got them a tiny bit closer to the ultimate goal of the notes of the Pral trill actually taking up no time. Because nothing exists in the cage. Nothing is of consequence there. They'll chase the ridiculous, the impossible, the figments of their imagination, and settle for whatever comes out of that. The results of such headless chicken activity in Lilliput, in the cage, become the new truth. And I say that they're chasing the figments of their imagination, after saying that music taps into the fourth dimension. That music is four-dimensional sound. That music, in the world of music, bends time. So that's me accusing them of chasing figments of their imagination. And I'll tell you why they can get away with it. Why nobody, why everybody would think I'm the one chasing figments of my imagination and nobody would think they're chasing figments of their imagination, is because those figments of their imagination is so bland, so boring, so dull. Nobody would ever suspect that they made it up completely. So everybody would accept it as being, academic or knowledgeable or intelligent, because something so boring, nobody would make up something so boring. And that's how they get away with it. That's how they get away with presenting the absurd and it appearing on nobody's radar. And that's why I might present music as existing in the fourth dimension, and that'll seem totally absurd, because that is the sort of thing that somebody with a great imagination will make up. And if you think I made it up, well then you're complimenting me on my imagination. Because try coming up with that. Try coming up with it. Try coming up with something outrageous about music to say. Yeah, so that's how they can get away with it. And that's why you'll never notice that they are totally, barmy. With what they, with what becomes the new truth. So what Bach says in paragraph 3 of the chapter on the brace, that the notes of the brace do take up a certain amount of time, proves my claim that he was well aware when writing paragraph 32 of the fact that notes in real life, outside of the cage, outside of Lilliput, actually take up time. And that when he said that these pral trills, with their four notes, still have to be played so hastily that one should believe the note above which it is introduced would lose hereby not the least bit of its value, but arrive on a spot at the right time. Of course he didn't mean that literally. And of course Lilliput are idiots for taking him up on that literally, and for chasing that literal goal by eliminating as many notes of the pral trill as they possibly can. Yeah. I don't know how that comes across, but to me, when I put it like that, it sounds pretty stupid what, Lilliput, what the roll of honour are doing, what your experts, the people you've entrusted with your education, with your guidance, what lines they're going down. And I just want to say there, I'm talking about the pral trill here again, and in the video where I said a taste for things to come, when I said I'd be, digging them up and bringing them back to life just to bury them again, this wasn't it. The knockout punch is coming later. This is just like a warm-up jab. But aside from that, which is only of secondary importance, I mean, this is what I have to do, given that Lilliput rules the world, and I am talking to people I am saying to you, I can free you from the cage. I can take you out of the world of Lilliput and in the land of giants. that's just a part of the, like, what you, I don't know, the narrative of these videos, the channel of the time we're in. But it's only of secondary importance. And I'm connecting those paragraphs because by connecting various paragraphs, we get a better picture of Bach's understanding of the things he says and, subsequently, his or their proper meaning. We get to know him better, where he's coming from. Our picture of him gains depth. So that is the main value of connecting the different things Bach says together. You get a web, a complex, like a network of information that has depth to it, as opposed to just lining them up one after the other in a straight line. You bring them round, It's like all the like the Christopher Nolan sort of things about bending time and going through and stuff. It's making connections. It becomes a network rather than a line of dominoes or whatever, where you have no idea that domino number 50 is actually connected to domino number 4, because you don't look at them in any other way except one after the other. So that's the real value of connecting paragraphs and the things Bach says together. And one last thing I'd like to mention. When searching for the correct answer, when looking for evidence to support your gut instinct, like when trying to figure out what ornament to play in a certain place, the process of elimination can be an effective method to use. And Bach's point here about completely short notes, not well suffering a brace, is a piece of information that can be used in that process. So it might seem slight or, kind of not worth retaining, but these smallest of pieces of information can actually make the difference between discovering the right answer and not discovering it. And there'll be a lot of, it's like saying you need air to breathe. It sounds like when you rate that, if you put a sentence like that next to a volume of quantum physics, you think this is the important one and this is the irrelevant one. But this actually, that small sentence, one needs air to breathe, that relates to every single moment of your life. Even though it's so small, it is something that applies to your life, and that can be the same with information about music or something. The smallest piece of information, the piece of information that's the quickest to say, can be omnipresent. Its relevance can be omnipresent, whereas something complicated that only comes up once in a blue moon, that could take 3 pages to explain, but it is only talking about something that will occur every now and again, whereas the short bit of information applies to 90% or 99% of your musical activities. And very often the importance of information can be confused by how complicated it is or how long it takes to explain it. And it should, but although it should, that it should be understood nowadays, when you can fit, huge amounts of information on a tiny, that stick to record to save your data. On one of those sticks you can have Shakespeare's all Shakespeare's plays and sonnets and everything that Shakespeare wrote on the one little tiny stick. And it would be wrong to judge the value of Shakespeare's contribution based on the size of the stick that's used to save it, to record it. So Yeah. Man findet den Doppelschlag teils allein über einer Note, teils in Gesellschaft des unter ihm befindlichen Pralltrillers, teils nach einer oder zweien kleinen, dreimal geschwänzten Nötchen, welche vor einer Note stehen und sich, wie wir in der Folge sehen würden, von den Vorschlägen unterscheiden. Here Bach is mentioning the different variants of the brace he'll be showing us in this chapter. So 4 basically. Incidentally, the brace that comes in the company of a pralltrill, Bach calls that the prallende Doppelschlag. And I was thinking glancing brace could be a suitable translation of prallende Doppelschlag, with the adjective glancing meaning striking someone or something at an angle rather than directly and with full force. So the glancing brace, that will be dealt with further on in the chapter, but here's how Bach indicates it in the score. And then the other 2 variants of the brace. Those 1 or 2 3-timed tailed small notes before the note. The 3 tails on the stems of those notes make them demi-semiquavers or 30-second notes in their written out value. Yeah, and so we'll Bach will be, like he said, he'll be addressing them in due course. Der Doppelschlag allein kommt entweder gerade über einer Note oder nach selbiger, etwas zur rechten Hand vor. So, the brace on its own will come over a note or after it, slightly to the right hand side of it. This is something to take note of with regard to one of the examples Bärenreiter cited to support their conclusion of a, for them, problematic spot with regard to Bach localizing the Pralltrill before a falling second, vor einer fallenden Sekunde. When to Bärenreiter it clearly comes after a falling second. And that can be seen in paragraph 34 in the chapter on trills. Their conclusion was, so Bärenreiters, one should read after nach when Bach writes before for. So the example they cited, I think there was 3 or 4, which was the only one I didn't address or debunk at the time, is in paragraph 34 of this chapter on the brace. Denn indem der prallende Doppelschlag allein nach einer fallenden Sekunde und anders nicht gebraucht werden kann. So that's what Bach said. So when we get to this paragraph and I address it then, we can remember from this paragraph 5 that one can figure that Bach understands the brace as coming either directly over a note or after it. And that just because he says after in the sentence I just read out while talking about the glancing brace, does that mean he obviously meant to say after in paragraph 34 when talking about the Pralltrill? So something to remember when we try to figure out who it is who's making the mistake, Bach or Bärenreiter. Because this will be an example of what I claim about, mediocrity attacking genius and mediocrity trying to eradicate genius. And we are going to see more, aside from the knockout punch, we'll see more evidence to like just how much opportunity Bärenreiter would have had to get it right. Opportunity they were blind to or ignored. So convinced of their own greatness. So ready to point the finger and accuse Bach of error than to, you know, check their own stuff to see, hold on, are we doing our job properly? Are we properly looking? And there will be, you know, there would have been things here that would have helped them look better out of this. But they'll never, you know, well, okay, I'll leave it there for now, and I'll pick up where I left off in the next video. So, thanks. Bye.